So this is Samsung's Galaxy Watch 4 Classic, and I've had this for quite a while now. And honestly, I'm a little underwhelmed with the watch. It's not to say it's a bad or boring watch, it's just not a huge upgrade coming from the Watch 3, which ran the Tizen OS. But it's still a decent watch, so let's talk about it. Starting off the design, this is the Watch 4 Classic, so you're going to get a very classic looking watch here. It is the 46mm in silver, and honestly, I think it looks really elegant, really clean, very simple, and nice. I like the new designs of the buttons. It's like more rectangular like this time instead of a rounded circle. I just think it looks cleaner in my opinion, and it just feels flush with the whole body of the actual watch. And as far as like durability, so far it's been holding up really well. I haven't seen any scuffs, any scratches since I've had it, and I don't babysit it. I also don't use any kind of protectors, no cases, no screen protectors. I'm using it just as it came, as it is. And the band that it came with, the Rich Sport, I believe is what it's called, so far has been holding up pretty well as well. I will say this is a 20mm watch band, so all the watch bands that you use on this watch have to be 20mm, which is a little bit annoying just because before it was 22 on the Watch 3, so having to go, it's 20 now, means I can't use any of my old watch bands, which is a little frustrating, but no big deal. So wearing it in hand, honestly, it's for the most part kind of comfortable. There's some days where I decide, you know what, I just want to take it off for a little while just because it's a little bit heavy, it's a little bit big, so after a while I do get a little bit of fatigue, but luckily that's pretty much it. There's no like rashes going on, no skin burn or whatever. I've seen some people post about that, which is kind of interesting. That used to happen to me back with like the Watch 4 or Watch 3 Frontier, but I haven't had that issues with the Watch 3 or the Watch 4, which is good. I guess maybe it's because if your skin is more sensitive or if you're not used to having a watch in your hand. But honestly, I've been using smartwatches for years now. I think I've gotten used to it, but after a while, I definitely do get some fatigue. So either if I'm at my desk, I decide, you know what, I'm gonna take it off for a little bit, or at night, if I decide I just don't feel like wearing it tonight, I'll just take it off. But for the most part, I wear my watch about 80% of the time. So, and then when I go to sleep, most nights I do wear it, but there's some nights where I decide just to take it off and leave it on the charger overnight. But overall, I think it's pretty comfortable. The band itself does make it look a little bit bigger just because it has a design where it looks like the watch is like seamlessly continuing on with the band versus some other watch bands that are just ending at that like pin wherever it connects. But otherwise, it's not that bad. I think it's a pretty decent watch comfort-wise, but definitely consider a small one if you're not like into big watches or don't like having stuff on your wrist to begin with. So just something to keep in mind. So as far as everyday usage and everyday performance, you're getting a pretty decent performing watch here. Now I will say, like everything else I've ever used, you get occasional hiccups, occasional delays, but nothing crazy that will end and break your experience. You're getting a pretty snappy watch here. I will say that my usage is pretty simple. Now, I only use it for like notifications and for some simple health features. So as far as notifications, I'll keep my phone on silent and I select which apps I want to send or have them send notifications to my watch. I think it helps with battery life too, I'm not sure, but also helps me from keeping me from being distracted. So instead of having all my notifications coming in left and right, I just have all the important ones coming in so that I don't feel as distracted. So like messages, calls, Snapchat, YouTube, emails, like that stuff will come in and other stuff will just stay on the phone. And then once I look on my phone, I can deal with it. But that's pretty much how I use my watch as far as like notifications. Health stuff, I'll get into later. Navigation though, pretty simple. So swiping over to the left, you're gonna get your notifications. Here you can interact with them or clear them all, which will also clear them on the phone, which is pretty convenient. Swiping down, you get your quick settings and your quick toggles, so you can adjust the brightness, turn on bedtime mode, turn on theater mode. You can also use the flashlight here. That's the one I use a little bit the most in bedtime mode, so I set my watch up that way. It also turns on Do Not Disturb on your phone, which is pretty cool. It's how it's connected like that. But otherwise, this is up to you how you want to customize your quick toggles and choose which ones you use the most and adjust the pages as you need. Swiping over to the right, you're gonna get your widgets. Now here, I don't use a ton. I only really use the music one, which is why it's the first one that shows up when you swipe to the right. So whenever I'm listening to music, I just swipe to the right. And if I want to skip a song, I can do so doing that. Swiping up brings up all the apps you have downloaded. This kind of looks like the whole Apple Watch style to me, but it's kind of different. So basically, all your apps are there, and if you want to customize it, you can. So you can drag and move all the apps as you please. So if there's some apps I use the most, like for example, I use Spotify a lot, so I just hold on to it and swipe it all the way up, so it's easier and faster for me to get to it. So using Spotify here is pretty cool because you can download music straight into the watch. So just go into Spotify, select which playlist you want to download, and just hit download, and it'll straight up download it right onto the watch. So that means that you don't have to be connected to your phone to be able to stream the music coming from the watch. But one thing that Spotify is kind of annoying with is that you have to have a pair of earbuds to be able to play music on the watch. I don't know why it does it, but you can get by this, and I'll tell you in a second. So you connect your earbuds to the watch, and you can start playing music. Then you go home. I go over to my widget, the one that is the music widget here is for Samsung Music. I select on the device, like which device I want to play music from, and just hit this speaker. And then once the speaker is chosen, I just turn my earbuds off, and I'm listening to music on the watch. Now, when I go back into the Spotify app, it is grayed out for skipping, going to the next track. I don't know why. I think it's because Spotify doesn't want you to use play music straight on the watch. Maybe it's a battery life thing because you're definitely going to eat up more battery life. Whether you're using an earbud or not, you're going to eat more battery life. But it's still pretty cool. You can play music, and there's a little bit of a turn or a workaround to get it to play music straight on the watch. Kind of annoying, but it's still pretty cool that you can do it. And since this is Google Wear OS, there's a lot of other Google integration stuff in here. So one of the best ones that I don't really even use is the Google keyboard. So before, for text messages, you'd have to reply with like voice to text, which is honestly the best way to do so. But before, we didn't have the option to use like an actual keyboard. Now you can with the Samsung keyboard. So you can actually get like a little keyboard on your watch, and you can type out if you want to. It's better in my opinion than having to use the like drawing or having to use the old style dial type of texting. But the fastest way is definitely always going to be voice to text. And voice to text sometimes isn't the most accurate, so that's why half the time I just respond on my phone. But it's there if you want to use it. Another Google integration that I noticed the most was Maps. Maps is triggered every time whenever you set up a map or a direction on your phone. It'll automatically be triggered on the watch itself. So your watch will vibrate, and it'll tell you directions as well, so it lets you know. So if you have your map on silent, you won't miss a turn either, just because it'll notify you on here, which again is pretty cool. You don't have to have your watch or your phone constantly tell you turn here or at the next exit take this one. You know what I mean? The watch will automatically tell you, so you're like, oh, what's going on? So then you pay attention to the navigation. You're like, oh, okay, there's a turn coming soon. So, which is pretty cool. And there's other stuff you can do. So like you can find your phone, you can take a photo, use a calculator. That stuff I'll occasionally do and use whenever like I'm in a special occasion that I have to use some of that, but it really happens. But it's still pretty cool to have that. So as far as the health tracking stuff, I really only use to track my steps, sleep, and honestly, that's pretty much it. And on workouts, I guess you could say. But yeah, I do workouts of auto detecting. I don't set up my workouts. I don't go in and select which workout I'm doing or exercise. I just let it auto detect when I'm doing something. And the watch, for the most part, usually tells me when I'm actually doing something like an exercise. So sometimes it'll tell me a lot when I'm like walking a lot. If I'm just walking around like at my job, I'm just walking back and forth. It'll say, hey, good workout. You're walking a lot. But sometimes it's weird. Sometimes it'll like start to track that, and then it forgets that or I don't know if it forgets or if it loses track or something, because it'll say that I have a heartbeat of 0, but I'm still like working out, which is weird. Never seen it happen before. I don't know why it does that, but it's happened a couple times. That's where the occasional hiccups or delays happen. It's an issue, but not that big of a loss. But yeah, auto detecting stuff is pretty good. So when I'm running, it'll auto detect when I'm running. At the end, it'll give me a list of different stuff like information. Don't really care for it, just besides how long I was going for, which is all that matters to me. As far as like steps, it's pretty accurate, I would say. I am able to track my steps, and I have a goal every day, so that's why I use it. And then sleeping, I just want to know from which time to which time without having to physically put in what time I fell asleep, because I don't know what time I fell asleep. There is like again, more information you can look at, like the REM, like your 7 stages you were in, but personally, I don't use that. Another new cool feature that's on here that I don't use is the body composition thing. I don't use that at all. I've used it like once or twice, and that's pretty much it. Again, I probably should be using it more if I want to be more in depth with my health, but personally, it's there if I want it. I'm not going to use it a lot. Overall, though, I think it's a pretty well-performing watch. For the most part, it provides a lot of good features. Personally, I don't take advantage of all those features, but it's there for people who need it and who want to use it. So overall, I think performance is, for the most part, pretty good. So as far as battery life, depending on your usage, you might be able to get more than a day, but most of the time for me personally, I'm getting about a day's worth of battery life. So I usually charge my watch more than once in a day. Once, it's always in the morning when I'm showering. The second time is either in the afternoon or at night before I go to bed to make sure I have enough charge to last me overnight, because I wear my watch, like I said, most of the time overnight. And that usually kind of kills the battery like 20%, which is actually a lot if you think about it, but it's tracking your sleep, so it's understandable at the same time. But yeah, I have to charge the watch more than once in the day, which can be a little frustrating because the charging speeds are very slow. It takes like 2.5 hours to charge. I'm pretty sure fully 100%, but it's crazy. But otherwise, battery life is all right. So at the end of the day, would I recommend this watch? Honestly, yeah, it's a decent watch. Besides the battery life, it's still pretty good. So if you're coming from the Watch 3, I would say wait a year. But if you're looking for a new watch, yeah, it's gonna be a good watch to get. I definitely would say maybe consider the Watch 4 if you don't need that bezel. But if you want the bezel, I think you're gonna like the design. But otherwise, that's been it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace out.